officer. He's 47-year-old James Sapp, and we found out he claims to be part of a white supremacist group called the Aryan Brotherhood. Now, Chris Holmstrom is going beyond the headlines with all this. And Chris, you spoke to a former member of that group?
Jeff, that's right, I did. And he tells me the Aryan Brotherhood is all about crime. Basically, that's how they make their money. And with that comes a lot of violence. Now, at this point, it's hard to say whether or not the suspect, James Sapp, was actually a member. But this violent crime he's convicted of is definitely along the lines of the Brotherhood.
It's known for hate crime. You know, whether if you're homosexual or if you're another race.
Jeremy's talking about the Aryan Brotherhood, a white supremacist prison gang started in the 1960s.
And if you look it through the tribal, it'll say an A and a B.
Now, decades later,
that's why you see 1488.
There's thousands of members.
It's all about bullying, you know, it's all about, you know, just what I can take from you. And if you don't like it, well, we're just going to stab you and have you beat off the yard. You know, it is what it is.
Jeremy tells me he was part of AB for nearly 10 years. He didn't want to show his face on camera, but describes the Brotherhood as violent and primitive. In fact, I learned in order to join, there needs to be a blood tie. Basically, either kill someone or commit a violent hate crime. After that, the main focus is money.
It's not about supremacism, it's a business now. That's all it is. Anyway, guns, dope, prostitution, whatever they can do to make money, that's what they do.
I found out the shooting suspect, James Sapp, also identifies himself as a member. According to these court documents we got a hold of from several years ago, he made comments saying that he would not be housed with anyone of color, and that he kept in touch with his brothers behind bars. But it's unknown why he would allegedly shoot a Vancouver police officer. We took these questions to PSU professor Randy Blazek, who researches hate groups.
There's also just sort of this general hostility to law enforcement and this us versus them mentality. When you're in a gang, you know, everybody who's not in a gang is somehow your opposition.
But leaving the Brotherhood is no easy feat, especially when their motto is blood in and blood out.
There's no out, and you really just have to come to the point where you're man enough to actually just take a stand on what you want to do with your future.
And what happens if they find you?
Well, that could be a pretty bad situation for everybody involved.
And Sapp is expected back in court next week. He's facing several charges, including attempted murder. Kelly, back to you.
And smuggling drugs into California prisons. That's what the feds say the members of the Aryan Brotherhood are doing. They charged 16 members with running an extensive criminal enterprise today. The charges detail 5 murders and accuse an attorney of helping smuggle drugs and cell phones. 7 people outside prison were charged with assisting the white supremacist gang.
It's been called a cleaner version of hell, and it's where Dzhokhar Tsarnaev would go if the jury decided to spare his life.
In an exclusive interview, a former warden and a former inmate tell us death is easier than life at the federal Supermax. The I-Team's Lauren Lemanchek traveled to Colorado for a closer look.
It is as isolated as the prisoners who call it home. The prison, called ADX Florence, is a tomb for the living.
To me, it's life after death.
Bob Hood was warden at this Supermax prison. He spoke exclusively to the I-Team in detail about a prisoner's sparse existence here, 2 hours south of Denver. For Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, what's his life in ADX like?
Even if the behaviors are good, though, it's pretty much a 23-hour a day in the cell, 1 hour outside. And even outside, it's not a walk in the park. It's a caged environment.
Inside the Supermax, Tsarnaev would join a notorious group, the Unabomber, Oklahoma City bomber Terry Nichols, and other Islamic terrorists like 9/11 conspirator Zacarias Moussaoui, Ramzi Youssef, the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center attack, and Richard Reed. But Hood says Tsarnaev would be no match for them, or the 400 other hardened criminals here. He'll always have to be in solitary.
He's young, he's probably not streetwise, and he's very susceptible to assault, I think, because the average inmate would like to hurt him. His life will always be in danger.
This is the most secretive prison in America. No one is allowed inside, and the only pictures we have are from federal lawsuits.
A prisoner lives in a cell the size of a bathroom. It has a shower, a toilet, a concrete slab covered with a thin mattress. In the rare time outside, prisoners are kept in cages. One 15-minute phone call per month and a small black and white white TV may seem like luxuries, but Hood says they're also tools, so the guards have something to take away.
It is as stark can be. It was not designed with humanity in mind.
The isolation, the solitary, day to day, you're trying to keep your basic humanity from slipping through your fingers.
Ray Luke Levasseur of Maine spent 5 years here after being convicted of bombing public buildings. He says the sensory deprivation can drive a man insane, and lawsuits show it has.
You just begin to degrade over time. You feel it.
And so, as Tsarnaev's lawyers fight to save his life, both the former inmate and the former warden agree he may wish they hadn't.
I think it's a false choice in the sense that I think they're both death penalties.
What is the worst possible punishment?
The heart will say,
and then heading back to make
if
our
they're really
plans.
looking for revenge and know the system,
We're not going
they should be asking for life imprisonment at this rewards.
The Federal Bureau of Prisons has the final say over where Johar Tsarnaev spends his days. People who've been here say the best hope an inmate has is to be sent somewhere else. Reporting in Florence, Colorado, Lauren Lemanchek, WBZ.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Appreciate you guys checking out the video today. We're going to be covering the notorious Barry the Baron Mills, one of the original leaders of the Aryan Brotherhood on the federal level. Guy became just infamous, notorious for the violence he was willing to commit. The trial he went through with a lot of other the leaders in 2006. At the time was one of the biggest death penalty cases in the United States history. Guy just made a name for himself for the lengths he was willing to go for his gang to prove his point, to gain and earn his respect. Barry Mills was one of one, truly revered by his fellow inmates. Even some of the guards had admitted that done a lot of wrong, but when it came down to it, he had a lot of respect. He was looked up to in ways that a lot of other inmates, and even other gang leaders for that matter, were not looked up to. So, Barry the Baron Mills, born July 7th, 1948, Windsor, California. This is an interesting fact. The man spent 3/4 of his life behind bars. He died July 8th, 2018, one day after he turned 70 years old. Died in ADX, Florence, Colorado, the supermax of supermaxes in the United States. From a young age, Mills was getting into trouble.
There it is. Take a look.
He had that in him. Whatever that is in him, he had it in him. He could have gone one way.
What are we looking at?
He chose the path of rebellion, committing crimes at a young age. Basically, by the age of 19, he had stolen a car from a hometown country club, dipped out to Ventura, California. Not sure if he ditched the car or what exactly happened to it, but he hopped on a Greyhound. When he got off the Greyhound, he was arrested and sent to a county honor farm. And this is some of the stuff in his younger years. The reason I want to cover this is because it's not talked about as much. I read this in articles, but in videos I've watched or in documentaries that were made, they don't talk about some of the specifics of his youth. So I found this really interesting. It was from a hometown country club. Why he picked a country club, I don't know. I don't know if it was a class thing, if you looked at people with money as potential victims or people that he wanted to get back at. I can't go that far, but I do find it interesting that it was from a country club. So he gets off the Greyhound, he's arrested, sent to a county honor farm, which I'm assuming is just sort of like a youth facility or a youth detention center. Try to go and do some reform. He escaped from that just a few months later, After he escapes, he plans a robbery with a partner from a local 7-Eleven. They only get away with $775. Now, his partner would end up snitching on him. Now, keep that in mind, because Barry Mills hated rats. He hated informants. Every time he committed a crime and got time for it was based on an informant's words all the way up through his final acts of his murders that he ended up getting convicted of. There was always somebody in his eyes telling on him. So, gets arrested, $775. That's where he gets sentenced to 5 years in San Quentin. He's eager to ingratiate himself with the Aryan Brotherhood, who had established themselves a few years earlier. Originally some bikers. Guys wanted to build up their own protection. You know, when they first started out, it wasn't about just making money, dominating. It was about protecting themselves, protecting their own, looking out for one another. All right. So a young Barry Mills goes in there for the first time, wants to be around it, loves the atmosphere, and that's what it speaks about. People that gentleman that wrote a book, Blood In, Blood Out, speaking about the gang. It says Barry Mills loved the prison environment. Right. Most of the time, it should be the other way around. You hate it. Right. You're scared. You don't want to go back. Barry Mills was not like that. He loved it. He enjoyed it. He thrived in there. All right. On the streets, couldn't figure life out. Right. Couldn't figure out how to hold a job down. Couldn't figure out how to advance in society. But in prison, he was the man. He was looked up to.
What I say. Let's go in here. Come out there.
Does his time, gets out in 1977. But this would be the last time Barry Mills was a free man. Shortly after the release in 1977, he's rearrested plotting a bank robbery in Fresno, right? They thought they would get away with $2 million. They only got $21,000. After the robbery, once again, an informant gave them up, gave them away. This is where he ends up getting a 20-year sentence. Right? So this is where the legend of Barry Mills really begins to grow. And again, I just like to give that background. All right, because they don't talk about it enough. I feel like some of those finite details about what he was doing as a youth, you know, you can really see a true progression in his crimes. So now he's in there for 20 years, right? Now he's in the federal system. He bounced around a couple different prisons, but he was always in the max security units, it seemed like.
Back to your place.
He just had a penchant for violence. He had a penchant for making an example out of people, all right? And he didn't shy away from it. There's quotes that I put up here talking about if you
want to get out and check, go down
they had a belief that if you came after him or one of his own, he was going to take it to whatever level it needed to be taken to in order to complete the job, which most of the time meant murder, all right? So
with all the photos and surveillance work.
He's making a name for himself in a couple different federal prisons. In 1979, he's charged with murder of John Marsloff over a gambling debt at USP Atlanta. He basically beat and killed this guy to the point where he almost beheaded him, all right? And he did it in kind of a public way. Everybody didn't know about it, all right? And the whole point of Barry Mills' existence was one to advance the gang, gain his respect, but to be more violent than the next man. So that's kind of the first big thing that he does in there that people go, wow. And now his name kind of rings bells in the prison system, all right?
They were offended.
So remember how we talked about when the AB was established, it was established as a protection racket, just to protect their own, right? Look after themselves, not be victimized. Well, that begins to change. In the early 1980s, the AB was about, you know, again, still about protecting themselves, but they're interested, like some say, in capitalism. Now they want to make money, all right? They're protected. They're respected. Nothing's going to happen to the members, right? Nothing's not going to happen, but if you do something, you can expect extreme repercussions for your actions going against them, all right? So they want to start making money. Extortion, gambling, drug trafficking, murder for hire, protection rackets, all that stuff, all right? A 3-man federal commission is formed. Tyler Bingham, Barry Mills, and I believe John Greshner is the third one. All right? That's in 1980. They had to get permission at the time from the state level Aryan Brotherhood in San Quentin, which, remember, that was first established in the early 60s. All right? And this really establishes Barry Mills as a true leader of the Aryan Brotherhood. Okay? You kind of talk about the drug trafficking and stuff like that. And if you remember, John Gotti was one of the infamous in the late 80s, early 90s. He went in, asked for protection. Down the line, didn't think he needed it. Was later attacked by a black inmate. Went back to Barry Mills and the Brotherhood, asking for not only protection, but, hey, kill this guy for me. Well, they took the money, they took whatever he'd offered to do it, and told him, hey, John, we didn't have a chance to get it done. Sorry, the guy slipped away. Some think that they were never actually going to kill the guy for John or hurt him in any way. It was a way to get back at John Gotti to say, hey, man, you should have never left the protection that we offered you in the first place. That's what you get. So the 80s go by. Now, one thing to keep in mind as we go through this, they had a rival. And they had multiple rivals, but one of the main rivals was the D.C. Blacks, a Washington, D.C.-based prison gang that obviously, once again, spread throughout the penal system, in the 80s, 90s, and such. So, he's on the federal commission, all right? by 1993, members of the Federal Commission, they form a council that reported to the Federal Commission. So they had a council under them. So Mills, Bingham, they had people under them, a council that basically reported back the day-to-day activities of what the brand was doing. You know, how was the money-making business going? How was each particular racket going? Was anybody getting out of line? Did anybody need to get put in what they call a hat? It's basically the hit list for the Aryan Brotherhood. You get put in the hat, your days are numbered, all right? That means you upset somebody in some way and they got permission to have you killed, all right? Power. Just remember that. It is all about control. It is all about controlling all the legal activities in whatever prison the Aryan Brotherhood is in, whatever prison those members are in at that time, all right? They control everything, okay? Even the guards were controlled. And they controlled their members when they got out. So if you go in and you join the Aryan Brotherhood and you get paroled a couple years down the line, you're not done with the Aryan Brotherhood. You're going to leave with a firm set of instructions, somebody to report to once you're out, and you will have certain jobs to do. And if you fail to do those jobs, you fail to report, or think you can just get out, hey man, you know what, not for me anymore, I'm starting over. No, it doesn't work like that. You're going to be tracked down, you're going to be hurt, your family will be hurt. And I think a lot of these guys, I can't imagine a lot of them strayed, because, you know, when you get out, a lot of them knew there's a good chance they're going to go back. And if they went back not on good terms, they knew that their stay back in prison for however many years wasn't going to be good, and they were going to put themselves and their family members in danger. So, I don't know, my take is a lot of them stayed in line. I don't think they had that issue much of the time, dealing with people getting out of line once they got out. So, Mills is building an empire. In the 90s, he's absorbing smaller white gangs, all right? And then you go to 1996, right? Well, remember how I mentioned the DC Blacks, okay? Well, him, Tyler Bingham, there's discussion of a race war, right? And the history of the DC Blacks goes back to the early 80s when another famous inmate, Tommy Silverstein, had actually murdered DC Black member Robert Chappelle at USP Marion, Illinois. After that murder, the leader of the DC Blacks, Raymond Cadillac Smith, had put a hit on Silverstein, and the two were actually placed in the same holding unit, kind of control unit in Marion. And Silverstein would later speak on this, saying that guards like to do this kind of stuff. Guards wanted these guys to kill each other, take each other out, do their jobs for us, take each other out. And he thinks that's kind of what happened with the Cadillac Smith situation. So when Raymond Cadillac Smith shows up, he begins threatening Silverstein, telling him, I'm going to kill you, 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 threatening his life. And I'm sure the threats were going both ways. I'm sure Silverstein was doing his part too. This all culminates on September 27, 1982. Thomas Silverstein, with the help of Clayton Fountain, they stabbed Raymond Cadillac Smith 67 times. They can then proceed to drag his body up and down the Cadillac, all over the cell, back and forth, to make it clear what happens when you mess with the Brotherhood. Alright? There was always a public display. So we jump back to 1996, 1997. Mills and Bingham are having this ongoing issue with the DC Blacks. The DC Blacks are making threats on their members' lives. So Mills was communicating with Bingham using invisible ink, right, with his urine. So you write it out, you can't see it, you send a letter. It just looks like a normal letter discussing their family, their lives. And the key word, the hidden letters in that, was going to be an alphabet that they used that was derived from Sir Francis Bacon. In the 1600s, right, they would use certain coded messages using this particular alphabet. And there was also something that had said he was talking about the birth of his grandson or granddaughter. It was said that if the final letter came through and it said a granddaughter was born, the war was off. But if it was a grandson, that meant the war was on. Well, letter comes through, talks about a strapping 8-pound, whatever ounce baby boy. The war is on. There was also letters later intercepted that flat out said war with DC Blacks. So when Barry Mills sends orders, not much time is going to pass before actions are taken, and that is what happened in 1997. 2 DC Blacks were stabbed 34 and 35 times each, respectively. Now, the interesting part about this, Mills isn't initially tied to these murders, all right? It wasn't until 2 years later, in 1999, he wrote, remember I talked about Mills and these guys still controlled the paroled members that were out. He was writing letters to paroled members, giving them directions. Basically, it's called polishing the rock is what he wrote, and that means to expand the gang, expand the enterprises, expand the rackets, make more money, build, all in the gang's name. These letters were intercepted all right? And they talked about murders and things to do. Well, so all of this kind of culminates in 2002. AUSA, which is Assistant U.S., basically it's an attorney for the United States government, Gregory Jessner, indicted all suspected leaders of the Aryan Brotherhood. It was a 40-person, 10-count indictment charging 32 murders over 3 decades. At the time, it was one of the largest death penalty cases ever brought, one of the most expensive cases ever brought, okay? And this stuff takes time, right? So 99 letters are intercepted. 02, the indictment comes down. 06 is when they talk about the Con Air trial. So all these federal inmates all over the country, Mills included, are rounded up and they're flown to Orange County for this trial to take place. And they talk about just the gravity and the weight of the moment. Having these guys are killers, man. These guys are the leaders of the leaders. Mills with his dark sunglasses, which were actually medically prescribed. I read about that. He had I think it was his left eye injured in a fight or something, so those glasses were actually needed. They didn't just let him wear them for no reason. Him, Bingham, other members are shackled to the floor, menacing. And remember, Barry Mills hates snitches. He hates rats. He blames them for him being there, all right? There were basically 14 accused and participating in 15 murders over 25 years. 19 members had already pled guilty. The government, when they go after you, they don't go after you for no reason. They go after you when they have you dead to rights. They have 42 jailhouse informants to testify for them. So, sure enough, but really quick, one thing to remember. Mills and Bingham, these guys are already serving multiple life sentences, okay? So, for lack of a better word, they don't care, all right? They really don't care. So, they end up being found guilty. They're not given death. They're given just more multiple life sentences. To stack them on top of each other, right? Just basically burying these guys with life sentences. What ends up happening is Mills is sent down the road to kind of the end of the line, which is ADX, Florence, Colorado, the Supermax of Supermax. If you're a terrorist, if you're a gang leader, the Unabomber, you've got to really be special in the criminal underworld to go to here. And Mills definitely fit that description because of the amount of power he wielded. So he is sent to ADX, Colorado, where he would finish out his days. Like I said, he died at 70 years old. It is just a tale of violence and viciousness throughout. He lived till he was 70, which is crazy to think about the life he lived, especially like in those 70s, 80s, 90s years where he's very active. He's in the thick of it. Just that talking about he spent 3/4 of his life in prison is crazy. So, and I'm really glad in this I gave you guys some good background on his early life. I feel like a lot of these videos don't do that. So I hope I got you guys some new information. Even the stuff about his eye being injured, I didn't know that about, why he had to wear the dark glasses. So anyways, thank you guys again for checking this video out. Thank you guys for checking the channel out. Please like and subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. You guys have no idea what it means. I'm trying to get to 4,000 subscribers. Anyways, appreciate you guys a lot. Thanks again.
In the United States of America, some of the world's most dangerous and most States of America, some of the world's most dangerous and notorious prisoners are locked behind bars.
He unit was incredibly strong to the point where prison guards started calling him the Hulk.
Tyler Davis Bingham is one of them.
TD was probably the most dangerous man I've ever known.
He was feared by inmates. He was an imposing figure.
Bingham started out as a petty criminal, spending time in youth correctional facilities.
Almost like an Alcatraz system for kids. What you learn is you gotta fight and you gotta be violent in order to survive.
He was a fearless fighter, and his physical prowess made him a natural gang leader.
He stabs a guy multiple times, I think over a dozen times.
TD never allowed anyone to live. When he engaged an individual, it was to the death.
Even when moved to a maximum security prison, Bingham remained a deadly threat.
What makes him so dangerous was the fact that he could literally just write a couple letters down on a piece of paper and have somebody killed thousands of miles away. That level of power just doesn't exist in society.
This maximum security correctional facility has the largest death row in the U.S. and houses nearly 4,000 inmates. Tyler Davis Bingham, a.k.a. the Hulk, was one of them.
On it and start breaking into their system.
TD's a man's man. And probably the most violent individual I've ever met in my life.
He started excelling in this prison gang structure, and within just a few short years, basically became a leader of the AB.
Bingham committed his first crime as a child, and throughout his teens was in and out of juvenile detention centers.
It was literally a situation where kids would just kind of fight it out, and guards either were repressive and violent towards them, or just kind of let the violence happen between the kids.
Bingham's criminal career escalated, and he ended up in an adult prison where he ruled with his fists.
This guy's won every single fight he's ever fought in his life.
Bingham, he took his weightlifting seriously. He was a big, burly guy. You called him the Hulk. If I were to create the image of a prototypical Aryan Brotherhood gang member, it would be TD Bingham.
Born in Sacramento, California, Tyler Davis Bingham grew up with his parents and older brother. He started getting into trouble with the law from an early age.
His first arrest was when he was 9 years old for petty theft, and by 14, he was in the California Youth Authority, which is basically like a prison hellhole for kids. What got T.D. Bingham sent to the California Youth Authority as a teenager was kind of a Romeo and Juliet story. When he was 14, he fell in love with a girl who was, from his area in California, and her mother didn't approve. She didn't like T.D. Bingham, and her daughter was like head over heels in love with him. So they decide, hey, we're gonna run away to Texas and elope. What they did was they stole a car and they drove all night long into the next morning, and they, fell asleep in each other's arms in the backseat of the car that night. And when they woke up, there was a sheriff's deputy right there, knocking on their window, trying to figure out what the hell they were doing there. And they tried to play it off and say, oh, hey, we're from this area, we're just sleeping overnight. But the cop didn't believe him. And, he comes to find out, hey, this is a stolen car out of California. And he takes T.D. Bingham into custody, and he ultimately ends up going to the California Youth Authority.
The California Youth Authority, known as CYA, was designed as a state-level detention facility for people under the age of 18. It was the largest youth prison system in the country. At one time, they had 10,000 what we call wards, not inmates. They're called because they were wards of the court.
Juveniles who enter a correctional facility at a very young age are already placed at risk. It's kind of the chicken or the egg. Is the risk prior to them being arrested, or is the juvenile correctional facility going to be the risk factor, or is it both? If the juvenile correctional facility is equipped to handle the youth, rehabilitate the youth, and put the youth on a right track, it may be the best thing ever.
This, however, was not the case for Tyler Davis Bingham at CYA.
The reports out of the California Youth Authority are just horrifying. This was not just a punitive environment, but it was basically a prison hellhole. I mean, the CYA system was worse than a lot of adult.
Walked in 11 institutions, came back, wrote a report, said the place was a mess.
Kids were being held in dark cells as a form of punishment. Lights get turned out. Kids were getting tortured in there. Kids were living in completely unsanitary environments. Guards would throw gas canisters into their cells as a punishment and just let them sit there in it for a while. Urine and feces all over the place. Chronic understaffing. Sometimes you'd have one guard looking after 60 or 70 kids. And, these kids just ran amok and assaulted each other, stabbed each other.
Hey, come in. The other risk factor with juveniles going to correctional facilities is peer influence. So if a juvenile goes to a correctional facilities and they are surrounded by other juveniles who tend to be maladaptive, who tend to engage in criminal activity, lying, cheating, stealing, and violence, that might actually make the juvenile worse, so to speak, because now the juvenile is wanting to impress his peers or her peers. The juvenile wants to up the ante. The juvenile starts to realize that in this circle of friends, this is the way you are supposed to behave. And so that can certainly be a risk factor for the juvenile to enter correctional facilities later on in life.
The California Youth Authority was a training ground and a
system for kids.
Yes, in the holiday season. Crest residents,
it's hard to understand the psychological impact that has, and also
have made a huge impact on his life.
I think, like it did for a lot of people, the CYA turned T.D. Bingham into basically a troubled kid into a full-fledged gangster.
They start to view entering correctional facilities as something normal, as part of their track to becoming an adult. And that's when it becomes dangerous. Duration is completely normalized in the juvenile's brain, and so they start to think that going back to prison and recidivating and reoffending is just a normal part of life.
For the next few years was in and out of prison. You have multiple escape attempts.
Now an adult. And he had upped the ante.
And then in his early 20s, he robbed a liquor store. What he did there was he basically, held the clerk at gunpoint, walked the clerk into a bathroom, whacked him on the head with a pistol, and then when he was arrested for that, his excuse was, well, hey, I needed money, so I took it.
T.D. Bingham pleaded guilty to robbery of the first degree and assault with a deadly weapon. He was initially sent to San Quentin Prison, but in 1973 moved to Old Folsom.
Old Folsom State Prison is one of the oldest prisons in California. It's kind of easily recognizable because it has this iconic guard tower.
Okay, Old Folsom, was built in the 1850s. It looks like something out of the movies. 5 tiers in each cell block, gunners on the rail, gunners and gun towers, worst of the worst for years.
Back in the 70s, 80s, and even in the 90s, there were kind of constant stabbings. I mean, certain prisons were war zones.
Infamous Folsom inmates included Sonny Barger, a founding member of the Hells Angels, and Charles Jackson, a.k.a. the East Bay Slayer, convicted of killing at least 7 women and a man. It was here in Folsom that T.D. Bingham
basically a product of the system. Originally, prison gangs were essentially like a loosely formed group of guys that would sort of band together for protection.
Typically, most prison gangs go by ethnicity. You have Mexican gangs, you have black gangs, you have white supremacist gangs. Being part of a gang in prison is pretty common, and a lot of these inmates may not have been gang members on the outside, but when you come into prison, it's for your own protection and survival.
If a race riot starts or an inter-gang brawl starts, you're going to have to choose a side. And let's say you're a white inmate, and get involved and support the whites, they're going to hit you.
And there was an obvious choice of prison gang for T.D. Bingham.
The Aryan Brotherhood is a California-originated prison gang that started in the 60s.
And they basically formed as a defensive. They were kind of outnumbered by the Hispanics and blacks, so they wanted to form a group of white inmates to defend themselves.
The Aryan Brotherhood was pretty well established by the time T.D. Bingham found himself in prison. He immediately joins up.
Presented a pretty imposing figure. Within Folsom, the prison gang was evolving into a
and more into drug dealing and being in business. They have a very strong reputation for being assaultive and killing people and things like that, and being a very violent gang.
Authority, T.D. Bingham fitted right in with the gang. Locked up at Old Folsom Prison in California. He had joined a white supremacist gang, the Aryan Brotherhood, and quickly rose through the ranks to become one of its leaders.
When I got to Old Folsom, I was the youngest man
to be at Old Folsom. Pretty much every Black Panthers, you had Charlie Manson. These were veteran.
Joining a gang might even involve egregious type of activities such as having to prostitute yourselves, having to smuggle drugs, having to carry out assaults that you don't want to carry out, even murders. And so in order to have this protection, which is basically a false sense of protection in a lot of ways, you have to sometimes
With the idea of recruiting me, he gave me a spiel that included the Communist Manifesto and the pig establishment and all things that I really did not have the intellectual capacity to comprehend. I couldn't read or write, and I had no you correctly, you're a communist.
Insulting. It meant that Thompson had to fight just to stay alive.
And as I walked through the gate of the yard, 4 blacks rushed me with knives, took me to the ground. Chinked the asphalt underneath me. But it seemed almost as quickly as they had jumped on me, they jumped off. And the second they jumped off, shots were fired. And I could feel the asphalt penetrating my body from the shots, as well as some of the shrapnel. But I was determined to walk off the yard. So when the guards came out with their gurney and were going to roll me over onto it, I refused to let them do that, and I told them, I'm going to walk off this yard. It took me a minute to get up, and I eventually got up, and I shuffled off the yard the same way I shuffled on. And the injuries were such that once we got past the doors, I said, okay, put me on the gurney. But it was a matter of pride, and that I walk off that yard. And it had an enormous impact on those individuals who had attempted to kill me. 1, they had failed, and 2, I'd gotten up under my own steam and walked off the yard. And that did not bode well for them.
Another gang member was impressed by his courage, and Michael was asked to join a different gang.
The next person to approach me was T.D. Bingham. He came up and extended his hand, and we shook hands, and he told me that he liked the way I handled myself. He asked me, well, what do you think? Would you like to join up with us? And I told him, T.D., I said, for right now, I'm just going to do my own thing. He spit, and then he laughed. He said, but we got your back. And I said, that isn't necessary. I can fight my own fights. And he laughed again. And I like the hell out of T.D. T.D.'s a man's man. And probably the most violent individual I've ever met in my
thing about the Aryan Brotherhood back then. You know, my initial impression was, like so many people, that they were Nazis or they were racist. And I certainly knew that they were dope fiends, because they all had the physical characteristics of that, track marks on their arms. And in truth, I wasn't impressed.
If you're targeted by the Aryan Brotherhood, you know, if they can get to you, they're going to kill you. They're a very dangerous gang, and not a gang to be taken lightly.
Eventually, Michael Thompson gave in and accepted TD's offer.
They actually lived pretty good in prison. They had everything they wanted. They had drugs, they had commodities, they had clothes, smoking, and that resonated with me. So what he was really telling me was that they controlled their environment, and that appealed to me.
It was 1977, and by now, the Aryan Brotherhood was a powerful structure in the California prison system.
Brotherhood gets involved in anything that they think will be profitable for them.
In prison, violence is the #1 currency, and gangs use it extensively. It is via the mechanism of violence that the gangs control. So violence is the #1 currency.
It was not easy to join the Aryan Brotherhood. In Folsom, T.D. Bingham held the keys.
Getting to be a member, you had to be sponsored by a member and recommended by that member. You had to do work for them, and usually that work meant assaulting somebody at their behest. The gangs only want people that they think will help them produce that fear and intimidation.
Everyone's forgotten the Oranges Valley. The epic return of Yellowstone, Sunday, November 10th at 8, only on Paramount Network.
Her skin is so radiant, it's impossible to ignore. New Palmer's Cocoa Butter Formula, Shimmer Radiance.
Texas values to live by. Be a good neighbor. Always call your mom back. And never overpay for chicken tenders. Get a Texas-sized scratch-made meal every day of the week. Only $9.99. Only at Price.
And our man's imminent place on the FIB most wanted list is going to make him into insurance.
At that time, TV was probably the most influential member of the Aryan Brotherhood. And the reason he was because he established himself. His physical prowess was unbelievable. Extremely well built, extremely strong, and extremely skilled in combat.
There's this sort of cliche blood in, blood out, which basically means that you have to kill somebody or come pretty damn close to join the AB, and in order to get out, you have to die.
Each time you go out to the yard, you know you're going to fight. So, say for instance, a black royal family will go down to one end of the yard, and the Aryan Brotherhood and Mexican Mafia will go to the other end of the yard, and at a pre-agreed-upon signal, they would merge to the side of the yard and begin combat. And that happened every other time we went to the yard.
By 1978, Michael Thompson had proved himself to the Aryan Brotherhood and joined T.D. Bingham on the battlefield.
It was bloodbath,
of the West Coast prisons. Michael Thompson was Bingham's right-hand man.
T.D. Bingham's role with the Aryan Brotherhood, at that time, it was one man, one vote. And you did have those individuals who were more influential than others. And T.D. was one of those individuals.
Together, Bingham and Thompson regularly got involved in bloody and fatal battles with gang members in the prison yard.
That upset the administration considerably because so many people had been injured and killed. California prisons back then were extremely dangerous. I don't think that there was a prison in the United States, a prison system in the United States that was more dangerous.
People would get stabbed and killed, and the yards would get briefly shut down. They'd bring the victim out on a gurney, and then they just reactivate things just like, business as usual.
T.D. and I were kicked out of Folsom. It was because of the violence.
In 1979, T.D. Bingham and Michael Thompson were transferred to San Quentin State Prison in California.
San Quentin was sort of ground zero for a lot of violence between prison gangs.
All of the major gangs, gang leaders, and all of our inmates went to San Quentin.
It was a dangerous place for anybody that had to serve time there or work there.
Getting back in the 70s, San Quentin cells were small. I could take one elbow and put it on the wall, and outstretch my other arm, and I could touch wall to wall.
There were some blind spots in the prison where our officers
business was booming.
They controlled Old Folsom and San Quentin. So you had transient populations there from 3,000 to 5,000, depending on the time. Not overcrowding. It's like a small city.
Now you gotta wait until the other teams deliver the schedule. Let's just hope they do it, because it's
they want to control whatever they can in the institution, and they do that by fear and intimidation.
If you will, was violence. Violence for hire. They hired out to other organizations, but it was also again used again as currency towards controlling resources in prison.
If you borrow from them and you don't pay it back, they'll kill you. If you buy drugs from them and don't pay them, they'll kill you.
The Aryan Brotherhood is a money-making organization.
Essentially, my observation of the Aryan Brotherhood is they're rivals for anybody that interferes with the rackets that they're controlling.
They're controlling the drugs, they're controlling the prostitution. Paying off the guards to do that.
T.D. Bingham wrapped up the Aryan Brotherhood operations. It caused tension between rival prison gangs.
T.D. and I were in San Quentin more than a week, and we got into it with the Mexican Mafia. They had stabbed an associate of the AB right after T.D. and I got there. We didn't have any knives, but we beat the hell out of them.
But this time, an armed guard in the prison gun tower intervened.
Gunner of that tower was only 12 feet off the ground, so if he leaned over the rail, he was probably 8 feet away from us. He was shooting TD and I in the back while he was loading. He was that damn good. TD and I both took 5 rounds in the back. And the only reason we stopped what we were doing is that the damn lead from the shotgun got so hot that it was unbearable. The doctor said the only reason that it didn't kill us is that it didn't puncture a lung or the heart was because TD and I both had so much muscle on our backs. Events like that usually lead to warfare. But the Mexican Mafia and the AB were allies. So
to go to warfare because what that warfare does is it intrudes upon business. It's not because you like each other. It's because you're in business together and you're making a lot of money and you don't want to stop that.
Money is green, and really there's no color when it comes to money. So you often find that these racially motivated gangs are willing to put all of that aside in order to get their needs met, and usually those needs are financial.
The Aryan Brotherhood continued to grow, and despite all the gang's activities and crimes, T.D. Bingham managed to get paroled in 1981.
Tyler Bingham was briefly paroled, and it seems like he attempted to go straight and start a new life with a family.
He fell in love and married this woman, and basically they moved their family out to Texas, and he became an oil rig guy. While he was paroled, he was still a full-fledged Aryan Brotherhood member. It was harder to communicate with prisoners during those days, and you also have to remember just how much clout that he had within the AB. I think this is a guy who could pretty much do whatever the hell he wanted.
T.D. Bingham formally adopted 2 of his partner's children. They also had a third one together. But family life only lasted for 4 years.
That time period ended because he went into a bank with a revolver and robbed a bank at gunpoint and stuck the revolver underneath the door and pointed it right at the clerk. And then he made off with $12,000 and was arrested a day or 2 later and sentenced to 25 years in federal prison.
That's not surprising, considering that, he started engaging in criminal activity at the age of 9. And so he has a lifelong history of this pattern. It's really the only thing he knows how to do.
Convicted for bank robbery, a federal crime, 38-year-old T.D. Bingham was sent to Lompoc Federal Prison in California. The Aryan Brotherhood was already present there and welcomed T.D. Bingham with open arms.
When certain members of the Aryan Brotherhood from California got convicted of federal crimes, they took the gang to the federal prisons. As the Aryan Brotherhood in California started to evolve, they needed better organization. So they decided they were going to have maybe 3 leaders be the commission that would make decisions, serious decisions. Who gets into the AB? Who gets hit?
T.D. Bingham was ready to take back the leadership.
He was basically made a commissioner in the federal system instantaneously, pretty much the same time that he put his foot down in the first prison yard.
TD's role on the commission was essentially that if TD says that this needs to happen, pretty much the
gang boss.
When TD got to Lompoc, he learned that there was an individual there that was, and he didn't hesitate.
The fellow's name was Gary Evilsizer. So he goes up to Gary Evilsizer with a prison-made shank and stabs him. He stabs a guy multiple times, I think over a dozen times, attempting to kill him. But Evilsizer somehow survives.
He made no effort to get away with it.
TD
thought that maybe solved the problem by doing this, and that these guys weren't going to find a way to, get around those restrictions and kill more people, but of course they were wrong.
Of the Aryan Brotherhood was back in prison, and he immediately asserted his power.
Within 1 month of going to federal prison, he stabs somebody, gets arrested for attempted murder, gets another 12 years tacked onto his prison sentence on top of the 25 he's already doing. Because of that stabbing, he's shipped off to more restrictive housing.
T.D. Bingham was quickly sent far away from California to the United States Penitentiary, Marion, in Illinois.
USP Marion was the first and so for many years it was kind of seen as the go-to place to house the most dangerous or otherwise violent, offenders in the federal prison system.
Rather than cut T.D. Bingham off from any contact with the Aryan Brotherhood, he is locked up with another power leader of the white supremacist gang, Barry Mills.
I think TD and Mills were already well acquainted, and they were already friends, and they already obviously were cohorts at that point. So, you know, here's two Aryan Brotherhood commissioners in the same place.
They were the most influential members of the AB Commission. They were both housed in Marion, Illinois, and responsible for the death of a lot of people.
At this point, have the ability to spread their wings out and not just grow the gang, but organize it in ways that, you know, haven't really happened before. Now they're all across America, and they're recruiting people who have never been to California into the Aryan Brotherhood, and all of a sudden it turns into, you know, a California prison gang to something with a nationwide reach.
The gangs are very sophisticated. You know, you can't take them lightly. Every time that law enforcement adjusts to how prison gangs operated, they would adjust and change their method of operation.
From the perspective of the Department of Justice, the advantage of getting these guys into federal prison is kind of seen as a way to break the gang up. But there's this giant caveat to that, because really the only way to do that is to cut off their ability to communicate with the outside, and that legally is restricted.
Communication is the lifeblood of the gangs. Today, it's cell phones, smuggled cell phones. Prior to cell phones, they used people paroling. They would take out a message, or they would talk to visitors. They had written correspondence, most of it coded.
Well, communication amongst the Aryan Brotherhood in prison was multifaceted. We used codes and kites that we would send through messengers. If it was going to the street, we had people come visit us, and oftentimes we would send coded messages out through the mail. You had, the most common way was to take urine on yellow legal paper, and you would write the message in urine on the legal paper. It would dry and you couldn't see it. But when the party who received it got it, they would take an iron or just a torch, heat it, and the wording would come out.
Univision celebra 25 años del Latin Grammy y Carlos Vives como persona del año. Ha llevado el sonido de su tierra alrededor del mundo y su filantropía no conoce límites. Latin Grammy en vivo, jueves 14 de noviembre a las 7 por Univision.
I think T.D. Bingham and Barry Mills had sort of worldwide domination aspirations. They wanted to grow this gang into something the likes of which had never been seen before. Attempting to do.
In 1995, the government sent T.D. Bingham, Barry Mills, and other high-ranking members to the federal Supermax prison, USB Florence AdMax, in Colorado.
That's the most secure prison in the United States. So there's terrorists in there, there's gang leaders from all over the country. Well, they got moved to ADX because the Federal Bureau of Prisons wanted to restrict their ability to communicate and order AB members throughout the Federal Bureau of Prison system to do different acts of violence. So they moved them to ADX to restrict their ability to communicate.
The caliber of individual there you have are jihadists, and I think the idea there was to essentially cut off the head of the snake via that isolation. It's pretty isolated. Their mail is heavily censored. I don't believe they receive contact visits or they receive video visits.
used to send out messages and engage in conflict remotely with another gang, the DC Blacks.
There was plenty of violence between DC Blacks and the Aryan Brotherhood. There were murders back and forth. You kill one of ours, we kill one of yours, type of thing. And then the tension came to a head where the Aryan Brotherhood's commission, decided like, hey, are we going to call an all-out war here? There was a number of notes that went out, but the note that came from T.D. Bingham basically just said, war with DC Blacks. It was written in invisible ink, and it was attached to a letter that just had a bunch of written on it that was totally innocuous. If you know how to read it and you reveal the invisible ink, it's really a kill order.
T.D. Bingham declared a war against the DC Blacks gang in Lewisburg, in Pennsylvania.
It kicked off a number of other stabbings, I think 2 murders and 2 other attempted murders that same day in Lewisburg. The letter was written in ADX Florence, where T.D. Bingham and Barry Mills were already housed. And it did underscore how dangerous he was, because he was able to write, a couple letters on a piece of paper and kick off basically a nationwide race war within the prison system.
There are a number of ways to communicate. You and I could stand here and look at each other, and I could use Morse code with my eyelids. And here's the thing. When you have nothing else to do, sit in your cell and conceive ideas that will circumvent that which they're attempting to impose upon you. Sooner or later, you're going to find a way to circumvent that authority.
In 2002, the government finally indicted several members of the Aryan Brotherhood, including Bingham, under the Racketeer, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act, known as RICO.
RICO is a federal statute that was originally used against organized crime back in New York, New Jersey, and Chicago. They used it against the La Cosa Nostra. And it's based on a conspiracy. It's a very, very effective way to prosecute a gang. The federal government indicted about 40 AB members.
They were seeking the death penalty against 40 individuals. That's pretty damn significant.
I had just retired, and they brought me back to organize the security for that trial. Because number one, we had 40 defendants we had to keep track of. I think we had 70 defense witnesses we had to keep track of, and we had over 100 prosecution witnesses. One thing is the AB is known for is they always want to escape. So we were always dealing with escape plots. The death penalty was on the table. Okay, so the AB was saying, hey, if any AB member gets executed, they'll take out 4 or 5 cops. Well, during the course, and these RICO prosecutions take a couple of years. During the course of this, several prosecutors changed, and they decided to take the death penalty off the table.
The RICO prosecution of the Aryan Brotherhood was an absolute failure. They failed in that. The best they could get out of that was life sentences. Life sentences for individuals that were already serving life. So that was the expenditure of millions of dollars so that they could have another life sentence added onto their life sentence.
In November 2006, T.D. Bingham and other AB gang members were convicted of violent crimes in aid of racketeering and murder. Bingham received a sentence of life without parole. Bingham remained at the Supermax prison, USP Florence Admax, in Colorado.
I think that because of how restrictive T.D. Bingham's prison conditions are, he doesn't wield any direct power over the AB right now, but he's kind of an icon, or he's seen as sort of this influential figure who's almost like a martyr, or kind of, something approaching a saint within the gang.
My feelings about the Aryan Brotherhood today is that they parallel most of your hate groups. I despise it. despise the idea that young
What makes T.D. Bingham one of the most dangerous prisoners in history is not his ability as a fighter, which was pretty incredible, but what makes him so dangerous was the fact that he could literally just write a couple letters down on a piece of paper and have somebody killed thousands of miles away. Like, that level of power just doesn't exist in society. Giving him 15 minutes a day outside of his cell could result in people getting
he has, regardless.
I think if T.D. Bingham got I think the feds are pretty confident they've got him locked down to the point where he can't interact with people, and if that's not true, they probably won't realize it until it's too late.
Harris and Allred, Kamala Harris called keeping boys out of girls' bathrooms hateful. Colin Allred voted for boys in girls' sports twice on the economy.
The Inflation Reduction Act is now law. It's going to lower costs for families. It's a really big deal.
Bidenomics is working.
And on the border.
Let me be very clear. I'm not going to vote for a wall under any circumstances.
They build that racist wall. My generation is the one that will tear it down.
Harris and Allred, two liberals, too liberal for Texas.
I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this message.
Apparently Route 66 is haunted. It used to be called Bloody 66.
There's a ritual that we can do that we can test ourselves. Have you ever heard of the 11-mile ritual? It's basically a ritual where you could acquire your greatest desires, and by the end of it, you can be granted a wish if done properly, and you successfully do it. We should all wish to be removed and revoked from any negative energies, spirits, demons, anything that is lashed onto us. Everything that can go wrong will probably go wrong. So slow. Can't go over 30 kilometers an hour.
Oh,
yeah.
Why?
I don't know. That's just one of the rules. There's just a bunch of rules that they just have. Can't open the windows. Don't turn on the radio. Don't turn off the radio if it turns on.
Thinking we were going to go like 180 and just bang her out like
no. I'm going around like 10, 11 miles an hour. So I kind of want to take it a little slow every 10 minutes. Not 10 minutes. In the next hour, we will be done. We're not going on 1 mile an hour, Nick.
You said 10.
10 miles an hour for 10 miles.
So stupid.
Oh, goddamn.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, there's just a bunch of rules. No phones. You can't call anyone. You can't call 911. If you hear voices in the car, ignore them. You hear them telling you to do something, ignore that. If the car stops working, we need to all close our eyes. If you feel anything, don't open your eyes. If you hear anything, don't open your eyes. If it's really cold or hot, don't open your eyes until the car starts. Just everything that happens, just let it happen. basically.
So don't interfere.
Yeah, just don't interfere. Let everything happen. Just go with the flow. Apparently, things are going to get progressively worse. So the first mile is going to get, nothing really is going to happen. We keep going for miles.
Sorry to cut you off. Can you turn on the heat?
Yeah, the other miles is going to get progressively worse. We're going to start seeing more stuff on the road.
You can't stop the car.
One of the number one rules is do not stop the car unless the car just stops itself, pretty much. But apparently it's supposed to drive on its own when it does that. It's very weird.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
So, let's say this ritual gets in crazy and there's all kinds of stuff happening, we're freaking out. Can we cancel the ritual, or are we like, we have to finish it?
Some more background on the Vagos. Okay. Globalized, multinational, decentralized criminal network.
So we would be okay if we want to just quit and it's diversified into mid-level distribution. That's the last thing. We want to try to do this and just bang it, you know what I mean? Yeah, there is one weird thing about the whole thing, and it's that we are basically on a loop. So each mile is going to be the same.
Most of the Vagos upper management is shot callers. If you like, are already incarcerated.
There's going to be different
throughout Central and Latin America.
that we're still going to be kind of on the same road. So it's just going to be, we're in a loop right now.
What's the similarities?
Yeah, if we were able to get all our energy together to do that one mission, and we are on the right road, and everything's working fully, we will see the same things, but small things will change. Interesting. It is very creepy to think about. Oh, we saw that literally like 10 minutes ago, you know?
Yeah.
But that's basically all you need to know for that. So if you break any of these rules, I don't know what happens.
Let's not do that. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. So let's just stick to following all the rules. Everything's going to be smooth. We're going to live our lives after this as normal people. Yes.
What could go wrong?
What can go wrong?
Yo, can you like turn the heat up more? It's literally freezing in here.
Yeah, it is getting kind of cold.
Why are you smiling?
It has begun.
You did mention that it was going to get a little chill. Oh, it's a ritual. I guess that makes sense.
It's supposed to get extremely cold. And I also am like really cold right now, so
it's weird. It's like I feel the heat.
Yeah.
And like I'm not like getting
expect sustained resistance.
Like you're not warming up.
Looks like a shit show down there. Clear the airstrip before you think about taking that bird into the sky. If the plane gets shot up, we're back to
I feel the heat on my hands.
And the heat's been on this whole time because I asked it to turn on earlier.
Yeah.
What? That's so weird.
Do you feel it, Nick?
Yeah, it's like it's the same thing. Yeah, it's supposed to get like really, really cold temperature.
people expect more of them any second now. Remember, the mission is the plane.
Backseat. We have it cranked up.
Well, hopefully it doesn't get any colder than this because you know how cold it's like supposed to get. It's like a temperature. Dude, there's an unreal amount of fog too. You notice that?
Yeah, I've noticed a little bit of fog on the street.
Yeah. I don't think it's picking it up. It's like this thin sheet, like
that is crazy, man. Like you don't normally get that. Like driving on the road.
It's like a morning thing, not a
yeah. Maybe it's the temperature.
Man, it can. Oh, it's something about the temperature.
I don't know. Getting eerie vibes, man. We're only on mile 2. We're only on mile 2. That's crazy. I'm really tired right now. So like, if I do see something, it might just be like me, like being too tired. Yeah.
Air traffic's telling me you're airborne.
Sign.
Bring it to the airport.
I'm the one driving.
The team's going to clean up the Vagos.
That is true.
Gang task force better send us a thank you for this. Even more Vagos coming at you.
Okay,
Peace to finding your
Better pizza. Better get you some.
Listen to the music every time it plays.
Very well done.
My
All
kids are
of you.
driving me insane, they got nothing to do. I don't think I can take much more of this Blue's Clues. There ain't nothing to do. Yeah, I know that China knew. They knew about the virus, but they didn't tell the truth. I'm running low on ramen noodles and that TP. I really miss when life was easy and carefree. I ain't staying in my house no more. I ain't gonna sit here no more. I need some fresh air, need some outdoors. I'm standing here staring at the screen door. I ain't staying in my house no more. I ain't gonna sit here no more. I need some fresh air, I need some outdoors. I'm standing here staring at the screen door. I'm just sitting here looking through Netflix. Is this a new show? Damn, already watched this. I guess I'll just go back to bed and reminisce. Oh shit, I think I gotta take a piss. I'm gonna be stuck in my house until the end of time. This damn coronavirus, there ain't no damn end inside. At least I got my friend hand sanitizer by my side. If it's the last thing that I do, I'm gonna go outside. I ain't staying in my house no more.
Final stretch now. It's a two-horse race with two of you in each horse. The ass and the head. Horse 1 is going for the lawyers at City Hall. Horse 2 is on the business partner arrangement. Sound good? Get moving. Horse 1, there's a ladder going up to the roof of the building opposite City Hall. You've got your long-range rifles right. Want to minimize risk of failure, so you're taking your kills at exactly the same time. Coordinate your shots. Climb the ladder. Get in position on the rooftop.
I ain't staying in my house no more. I ain't gonna sit
Hey, yeah, thank you, yo, yeah, I made this song to say thank you, middle finger to the sky, haters, fuck you, 30K we did it, the haters
Got a clear
won't
view of
admit
the
it,
steps?
make another fake account so you can cry with harder every single day. I ain't gonna stop just because the haters say, what's up everyone, Dean Crack here. I hope to hit 100K this year. Yeah, started with nothing and now I'm something. I don't care what they say, I'm doing my thing, you best believe that. 30K, bitch, trolls don't like me, that's whatever. I got my supporters on my side, we ride or die forever. Love and grow, let's change up the flow. You bringing hate on my channel, that's a big fucking no. We just hanging and chilling, I'm stacking up for that billion. I got a million different reasons why this hitting my feelings, yeah. I started with nothing and now I'm something. I don't care what they say because I'm doing my thing. I started with nothing and now I'm something. I don't care what they say because I'm doing my thing. Life is what you make it, be yourself and never fake it. When opportunity knocks, make sure you always take it because it might not come again. So never miss it and never let anyone put you down, just be yourself. If you believe in that, trust me that you will excel. 30K.
Climb the ladder. Get in position on the rooftop.
Thank you. That's all I really gotta say. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey you know that you important too. Even the haters that want me to tighten up the noose. But what's new with success come more haters, and the haters equal views, and more views equal money, bitch. So thank you for 30K, we finally did it, guys. For all the haters, middle finger pointed at the sky. It brings a tear to my eye, how fast time can fly. I love every one of you till the day I die. I started with nothing and now I'm something.
back to it. Dropping my foreign under the influence. Yeah, we all go through it. Pain, struggle, just hustle. And don't stop. When I pray to God, I look up to the top. Cause when I die, I'll be a memory. When I die, will you remember me? It keeps going on. One person dies, one comes along, and on and on. Pain.
Sounds like the locals have given up their pursuit.
Just hustle. And don't stop. When I pray to God, I look up to the top. Cause when I die, I'll be a memory. When I die, will you remember me? It keeps going on. One person dies, one comes along, and on and on. I contemplated suicide. I was losing my mind, even thinking about homicide. All of my anger, gun in my hand, I'm about to cause danger. I fathom my life just living on the island. My 3 children and my wife just smiling. As a father, I don't ever want to fail and have my children visit me up in a cell. Am I going to heaven or am I going down to hell? All the answers to my questions only time can tell. Take the pain away when I pop a pill. Trust issues in my pride keep me from signing a deal. Cause if I get fucked over, somebody get killed. So when you see me, when you look in my eyes, just know you in the presence of somebody who is real. Matter of fact, fuck you and fuck a record deal. Pain, struggle, just hustle. And don't stop. When I pray to God, I look up to the top. Cause when I die, I'll be a memory. When I die, will you remember me? It keeps going on. One person dies, one comes along, and on and on. Pain, struggle, just hustle. And don't stop. When I pray to God, I look up to the top. Cause when I die, I'll be a memory. When I die, will you remember me? It keeps going on. One person dies, one comes along, and on and on.
I gave my last to put them niggas first. I used to get on my knees and pray for days like this. I think it's safe to say we lit, but still a mile away from rich. I slide to Cali, hit Rodeo, shit, I'm trying to play the strip. Picture life 1,000 ways, I never seen it being this. I never used to know about fashion, you can see it in my pics. Now my PR, I'm mixing pomade.
Life is very complicated and messy, and that
tell her, oh no. Oh no. No young thug, that's no homo. Bitch, where was you when like hockey rinks, you know the flow cold. I run this bitch, you would think I'm coaching Flojo. Get fucking paid like a whole stroll. Stay in the field with them poles like a goalpost. Was selling bud for the low. Reggie man, I even sold drugs. Still independent, got more wisdom than the old folks. Stop selling drugs, now I get 10K for a show. Dog LeBron, I'm way ahead of my time. Fuck who ain't rocking with me. Compared to you niggas, only way ahead of you niggas. You don't need binoculars to see. That yellow bitch, she driving for me. 40 cal under the passenger seat. Like these way since they one been riding where he had to do what I did to survive in these streets. You already know you don't grind, you don't eat. Can't take no more L's, ain't got time for the feed. To get help from nobody, so I went and got it. I'm honest, man, nothing was promised to me. Ain't no stopping my shine to the top. I'ma climb, hope I make it on time for my mama to see. My brain is bionic, atomic. I guess like a comic, teach you about astrology. Fans say they love when I'm riding the beat. I'm good with the flow, I can mop, I can sweep. See niggas be hating, then hop in the whip with a bitch and she got the rap, got on repeat. Curse with a blessing on iTunes right now. If you buy it, you feel like you copping the key. Back in 08, I was copping them peas. Now I get paid just to hop on the beat. Someone go tell DJ Drama to holler at me. I Jeffrey Dahmer a beat. Go talk to the devil and ask him who is he. He'll tell you he wish he was hotter than me. I'm armed in this bitch. Iverson rocking the sleeves. Goofy. Although I'm cool as a tropical breeze, I won't let this bitch blow like a thought on her knees. I feel for you niggas like I cannot see. I shoot like Ray Allen when popping the three. Stop and pop up from that top of the key. No more problems with me, bitch. I got what you need. I don't quit a beat, boy. Them choppers are speak. Come to your crib and then rock you to sleep. Body your ass and then hop in the G. Boy, that 187 ain't nothing to me. I slide on them at night, they pajamas to me. Get popped in your noggin, your partners retreat. Every move I make them piranhas with me. I promise you don't wanna collide with a beast. So fuck what you thought. We gon' outline these plans up and talk like they playing hopscotch in the streets. When I come with them goons and them goblins with me, it ain't no way in hell you surviving the heat. Broski know how it go. We done been there before. We gon' kick in the door and then pop them on three. I been popping niggas, my big papa spitting, bitch. I got that Christopher Wallace with me. Just bought a Mac to flip you niggas like a laptop. Get in my face, watch me shoot it like a bad shot. It's spit like Nicky, get your ass shot. You know I'm bodying that bitch like a mascot. Extended clips holding 3-0. Watch me shoot 'em like a free throw. My 40 singing like it's Neo. That's bullet holes in your whip, now you Cleo. You know I ball like a peephole. Chain swinging like it's Debo. I make 'em piss like a P.O. Over here falling out, chemo. I'm taking over, bitch, I'm taking over. I'm taking over, bitch, I'm taking over. Do 'em like I did the last nigga. Shoot 'em through the glass, nigga. I'm in love with the coco. I'm in love with the coco. I got it for the Lolo. I'm in love with the coco. I'm in love with the coco. I'm in love with the coco. I got it for the Lolo.
This holiday season, add a little McCormick magic so that everything you do to create something special turns into more moments that everyone will remember. Making the holidays memorable for over 135 years. McCormick.
We're realistic, but The slow burn of Popeye's new ghost pepper chicken sandwich is scary good.
At Littman, we craft our cleaning tools here in the USA. No matter how big or small the mess, we'll help make your life happier, shinier, and a whole lot easier. Littman, family made in the USA since 1896.
It's easy to update your wardrobe, but it's not so easy to update furniture, appliances, or tech you just don't love anymore. Unless
I'm always showing love, yeah. I don't get it back, no love. Took a loss in the mail, I'ma get it back. I put my heart in this trap shit. I think I lost my soul when I so cracked to a pregnant bitch. I'm in the road. Back then my closet stove was eating macaroni. Now I feed on my homies. You say you love me, show me. Fuck all the words expressed. Taught me some lessons. They tryna stop one mind, so that's what they say. You got the head that's feeding you. I'ma wait some years before I decide to stop murking you. You paranoid, I know you hear this song and it's gon' fuck with you. You know I'm coming cause I'm grinding. It ain't hard for me to find you, for real. You know I got the killers next to me. They want the cartel, I say all that work, they blessing me. 4 niggas to set 1 nigga up his skirt. If I say that I'ma kill you, man, on my word. This trap shit make my heart fall real. Gun to my head, you should've let it go.
Here we go. Okay, you're splitting into 2 teams. Transporter, officer, you're the ground team. To start with, you'll collect our bus from the junkyard in Sandy Shores. Demolitions, you're the perimeter team. You'll be hijacking the inbound Bolingbroke transport. Pilots going to LSIA. And me, I'm gonna put up some smoke in a nice crowded public place. And giving everyone an AP pistol and a special carbine so there's no fighting over who's the favorite. Ground team, when you get to the bus, the officer's driving, the transporter's in the back playing inmate. Perimeter team do their job. You'll go in place of the scheduled bus. No one will know the difference. This operation is hard to attract police attention, so keep your heads down. Got it? Okay, get to work.
So cracked to a pregnant bitch. I'm in the road. Back then my closet stove was eating macaroni. Now I feed on my homies. You say you love me, show me. Fuck all the words expressing. My life taught me some lessons. They tryna stop my blessings. Stitches you a mind, so that's what they say about me. Up in the media, my friends set me up. How you got the head that's feeding you? I'ma wait some years before I decide to stop murking you. You paranoid, I know you hear this song and it's gon' fuck with you. The devil making my decisions. Rain guys, tears fall down. I'ma be satisfied when I put them in the ground. Take you out your misery. Fuck all of this fame. I'm gonna kill all of my enemies. Been pictures I don't forget. Asking me for sympathy. It's just how it goes. I can lose when I free. Be so happy when I see them boys bleed. Ain't wanna take my spot. Make it have to be so greedy. Feel in your eyes. The second that you see me. They should've killed me. They should've killed me. I know they feel me. I know they scared. Now they gon' feel me. It's time to shoot that chopper. They should've killed me. Always showing love, yeah. I don't get it back. Took a loss in the mail, I'ma get it back. I put my heart in this trap shit. I think I lost my soul when I so cracked to a pregnant bitch. I'm in the road. Back then my closet stove was eating macaroni. Now I feed on my homies. You say you love me, show me. Fuck all the words expressing. My life taught me some lessons. They tryna stop my blessings. Stitches you a mind, so that's what they say about me. Up in the media, my friends set me up. How you got the head that's feeding you?
All right, take it to Bolingbroke and avoid attention.
Murking you, you paranoid. I know you hear this song and it's gon' fuck with you.
Chevy Equinox EV gives you the range you need up to 319 miles and the tech you want with best-in-class touchscreen.
You're coming up on Bolingbroke. Hold it together and they'll let you in. You've got clearance.
Pulling up a pint, I'm smoking on that kush, whipping up cocaine, bitch I'm about to cook, you wanna sell drugs, follow my footsteps, then you'll receive cocaine. I'm bearing it all.
bipolar one, I got help to push back.
I got help to push back.
We got help to push back with Lybalvi.
Once daily prescription Lybalvi is proven to treat manic or mixed episodes of bipolar 1 in adults to help you push back. Elderly patients with dementia have increased risk of death or stroke. Do not take Lybalvi if you are taking opioids or are in opioid withdrawal. The samidorphan in Lybalvi can cause severe opioid withdrawal that can lead to hospitalization or increased risk of life-threatening overdose. Get emergency help if you have trouble breathing, become very drowsy with slowed or shallow breathing, feel faint, very dizzy or confused, or have a fever, stiff muscles, rash, swollen glands, or problems with your liver, kidneys, heart, or lungs. Other serious side effects may include high cholesterol, weight gain, potentially fatal high blood sugar, uncontrolled body movements which may be permanent, dizziness upon standing or falls. Are you ready? Ask your doctor about Lybalvi. Looking for copay savings? Text copay to 45286.
Feel like I gotta be somebody that the world wants me to be. I was crazy, I was losing it. Cocaine in my body, I'm abusing it. I try to change, I don't want to. Try to change, but the dope game keep calling my name. I try to change, but the dope game keep calling my name. Yeah, I try to change myself for the better. My friend in prison just wrote me a letter telling me stop flipping, everybody snitching. Sometimes I wish that guy would take me out this fucking kitchen. I'm feeling paranoid, I don't feel like I am living. Sometimes I'm blinded by the profit that I'm making. Police watching, I know that they hating. I'm only 21, yeah, I stay with my gun. Promised my mama that I would never be a bum. Every time I pray to God, I never get an answer. I always ask myself why a child gets cancer. I know that it's something that we will never know. No, can you hear me? I wanna stop selling clouds. I don't wanna sell no more. I don't want the feds looking on my door. All the police keep watching my home. All these damn things keep calling my phone. I try to change, but the dope game keep calling my name. I try to change, but the dope game keep calling my name. I got a story to tell, see everything I say is real. I done turned down a $3 million deals, I'm my own boss. I got help by myself. Every time I asked for help, I was talking to myself. So I started selling drugs and increasing my wealth. Cause every time I asked for help, I was just wasting my breath. Only thing I wanna be is a motherfucking legend. And the fact that on my tour is a motherfucking blessing. All my old friends started getting mad at me. If this money makes you mad at me, you ain't a friend of me. I lost a lot of friends, to be honest, man, it's cool with me. Snitches, you a piece of shit, add that to my biography. I try to change, I don't wanna sell no more. I don't want the feds knocking on my door. All the police keep watching my home. All these damn fiends keep calling my phone. I try to change, but the dope game keep calling my name. I try to change, but the dope game keep calling my name.
Papa John's is rolling back prices. For a limited time, get 2 large Papa John's.
Girl, you've been through pain. Deuce Uno. Stitches. DJ Paul, KO. With that top, let's go. Deuce Uno. Stitches. DJ Paul, KO. With that top, let's go.
Reservations. And you can make plant-based riblets. It's good on the farms. Morningstar Farms.
I found the one. Neutrogena Hydro Boost Hydrating Gel Cleanser. Gently remove dirt, oil, and makeup, and instantly hydrate. Get yours today.
Girl, you've been through pain. I've been through the same. I'm about to show you that your life can really change. Fuck with me, girl, and I'll show you what it could be. Fuck with me, girl, and I'll show you what it could be. $40 million, we gon' spend that shit together. Out in every city, we gon' be rich forever. He gave you a taste. I'd rather give you it all. He gave you a taste. I'd rather give you it all. The bosses around me. It's probably why I shine so much. I know what it feels like to start. It's probably why I got so much. I've been broke, but now I'm rich. I've been real, I've never been a bitch. You just talk, you just rapping. I'm in the streets, I'm really trapping. First class flights. Right here, some real shit, man. From the Hardball brothers in the...
on, huh? I thought the drug laws were keeping us full. Come on.
us, no one will know the difference. This operation is first if you're attracting police attention, so keep your heads down. Got it? Okay, get to work. Coming up on Bowling Brook, hold it together and they'll let you in. You've got clearance.
I'm your guardian angel, and it translates into Kevin. No love like mine, another lifetime. We used to be together. See you hurt in desperate need of perfection. Gave her my wings and fell in love. Was supposed to be your protector of somebody else. You broke my heart and it's just not getting better. The angels telling me that God won't let me back in the heaven. I'm playing games. I know inside.
Okay, get to it. As long as they take your inmate in a guard, they shouldn't raise the alarm.
We got the same motives on our nose and we got the same scar. Feel they feel, wasn't surprised at all. We driving the same Back against the wall, what do you hold on to? I know it's something that we all go through. We just ain't yours. When raise it goes, all fly again.
So much for that. Facilities on alert. Forshansky. Go west along the waterway. Turn right at the next fork and see some stairs behind you. I'm gonna give you instructions. Try and get you to the target, taking you around the worst of the security.
I collaborate and merely get a shield for the pleasure. Just give me the creed that matters. Let's go! And one day, maybe in this eternity or another, you'll see yourself for what I know you to be. A queen. You ever need me for anything, this line never changes. Such is my love for you and me, and I am you. I'm in love with you. Show moments we share will forever be appreciated. I never withheld anything from you because my heart rests securely with you. I know you never do me a bitch ass thing. My heart will forever hurt to be in your arms. But at least we both know I'm willing to die for my beliefs as I've died for you before. And regret it not, for I did it all for the glory of love. In close, I remain the same. I'm come as I leave. Upright, independent, and fearless. We just both good and pretend. I love you forever. Saladin. Saladin. Saladin.
It's like, I know I'm a good person. I just so fucked up in my head. Things that I've been trying not to help in these songs. I swear I be talking, but nobody wanna hear me. Mama, I'm so honest, cause the way people did me. VAD apartments, we was thugging with that glitz. I'm steady catching counting, wonder when they wanna give me. This is the way that I've been for a while. You know I cried with this whole water smile. And I can't lie, I got that fire on me now. See why my life been so hard since the time. That's the back of my feet. Later pussy down. Why you niggas steady beating when they know they out of town? Mama lie, never listen. I burn all these bridges down. Nigga, why I'm always tripping, trying to kill a nigga now? This is the paradise. It's where I live. And they gon' have to give me all the love that I done give.
for innovation. Don't let Big Pharma tap dance around the fence. Hold Big Pharma accountable.
Tripping, better tell him get the fuck out my face. I got it tucked in my jeans, and I got my nigga through.